Welcome to a big Bladtcast, 400. And it has been 199 episodes since our last guest was on, Mr. Dennis Miller. Dennis, I feel like we're on one of those Steve Coogan road movies. It looks like you're joining us from the road. So thank you for taking the time.
I played a little golf, and I just wrapped up the round, threw off my collared shirt, got into my Oscar Madison T-shirt, and I'm in the car in the parking lot. But I did not want to miss my dear friend Christian's 400 Bladtcast. What an amazing achievement! Good for you, Christian. I don't think I've done 400 podcasts.
No, I think that between the two places we've done the podcast, we're a little bit over 200 at this point because, you know, the math dictates you get about 50 in a year. And we're doing well. That was where I kind of wanted to start. How you do that show, the Dennis Miller option, and also Dennis Miller Plus One. You've been doing it from home. I feel like they both, to me, because I'm not hosting them, but I feel like they're both good gigs because, you sit down, you talk for a little bit. The TV shows even shorter than the podcast. So doing those these days from home, they both seem like they must be attractive compared to, doing a talk show where you got to drive all the way down to LA and, wait for an audience to get loaded in. That's sort of like compared to earlier gigs.
Guys, Christian, it's unbelievable. Do you realize how cush we have? Or I have it, and you have it to some degree, because you're on the show with me. Listen, I would be talking anyway at home and being ignored by my wife and kids. Now, I have people held in some vague way through loyalty hostage that actually have to listen to what I say. But when you think about how crazy the world has gone, to think we can sit in our house, flip a camera. I'm in my car right now, for God's sake. Just play golf. It was so bad, I'm going to go hit a few more balls down at the, and I don't golf much, but I'm trying to see if I want to resuscitate that corpse. I'm going to go down and hit a few more. Can you believe you can jump on, do this show, honor your friend, and you're in your car. I got the AC on. For God's sake, there people dig ditches for a living, for God's sake.
It's look, I didn't have it too rough when we were doing the podcast from the studio. I would just have to go from Burbank to Culver City. But the idea that I have to go down 4 steps to do the show now compared to, 45 minutes in LA traffic, it's great. It's very surreal that, because now I can see you. And I know we just did the show last week where Lindsay and I went up there, but usually it's just this weird thing where I'm talking into my computer, you're doing the same. And we make something that people enjoy. And, it's very weird that it's like you're in your house, I'm in my house. Oliver Stone, I guess, is in his house talking to you, and I'm just almost like, looking in through the windows and just putting a glass up against the wall, trying to listen,
I'm just fascinated that from your upstairs to your downstairs is 4 steps. What is that, like that John Malkovich film where he's living in the crawl space? Well, how do you go from floor to floor in your house with 4 steps, or are they minute bowl-sized steps? What do you mean I go down 4 steps?
I'm only allowed to set up on the landing between levels. The kids have each of the levels. My wife is upstairs in the study. And look, I've got some of the kids' artwork behind me. So obviously you see where I rank in the arrangement of the house. But somewhere in here, here it is. A comment from Sandra. She said, I just played pickleball, Dennis. You should try it. I'm not quite sure I know what pickleball is,
it's
but
like,
I feel like it's
dwarf tennis. It's tennis if you don't have a big enough lot. They take a little air out of the ball, put some holes in the racket, make it springier, maybe put a net around it so it's a little bit of an octagon, and you play pickleball. It's Shetland tennis.
So obviously it's I hate when people they talk about these unprecedented times and all of that, but it is unusual that we're still doing things, I don't know, 6 months later. I think when they said like, oh yeah, you're going to have to do the show from home for a while and other shows that I do, I'm like, okay, that's a good 2-3 weeks. But now I'm just wondering, like, oh, are we ever going to go back? Is it, and
Oh,
do we
Christian,
even
some
want to,
people
if we
love
can do?
stuff like this. You know that. Some
Yeah.
people love stuff like, you can see people run to it. It makes them, they're able to pound their chest that they're a better citizen than you because they're not upset about it, and they'll do it as long as they want. And they always thought they were prone to wash their hands anyway, and they'll wear a mask. And they want to be able to lock horns with people they don't respect, or some of these people are just going on and say, screw it, I'm not going to wear a mask. Listen, we're tribes. We're all tribes. And right now you got a tribe whose clarion call is safety first. You got people out there who want to live forever, and they want you to live forever. And if you don't want to live forever as much as they want to live forever, there's a good chance they'll punch you or shoot you. That's how weird it's gotten. I've got people who have who think only of my well-being, who would threaten me if I didn't think about it as much as they did. Listen, we're at a pivotal point in America. The thing I'm disappointed about in America is we don't take all these differences and just break up. This is goofy. We shouldn't fight. No, we're beyond that. We saw what the Civil War did. The 600,000 people, citizenry killing its own, killing brothers, killing friends, killing West Point fellow grads. Obviously, that's the thing that nobody ever wants to happen. But I can't believe, in an odd way, my go-to on this is Gwyneth Paltrow, who I used to laugh at about it. But I can't believe we don't all meet up, probably in the old Rams Stadium on the Mississippi River in St. Louis, somewhere around the halfway point. Just break up, divvy up the albums. You get the REO Speedwagon, I'll keep the Zeppelin. It's time to split up. We don't get along. We want to live two different lives. Any energy that we have, there's got to be some way to have a latter day Continental Congress split up thing where we all go our own ways. That's what we should do right now.
Yeah, and looking, you're seeing a lot of people. I mean, obviously, I'm aware of what's going on. Entertainment wise, you have somebody like Ben Shapiro moving his whole operation to Nashville. Joe Rogan just moved to Texas. I mean, it's the sort of thing that people were indicating years ago, yourself included. That to some extent, it's not Atlas Shrugged, but it's like California Shrugged. It's like people are like, well, why would I live in that place? I still want to do what I want to do. And I think that it really lends itself to the idea of, yeah, look, people just aren't happy with one another. So they should probably go to like-minded places. And this idea that we're all stuck inside so much, or not as much as we were a few months ago, but the idea of going outside is a little bit less attractive than it was, say, a year ago. I used to think it was odd, when we were doing the radio show, you're like, yeah, I just tend to really watch Turner Classic Movies in the afternoon. And maybe it's because when I had kids, I'm just like, oh yeah, I don't give a shit what's going on out there. I want to know enough to be plugged in and not be an idiot. But there's people who like obsess over such minutia, and that's on the left, on the right, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I'll find out what's important.
Well, I'll tell you what. Listen, I don't know Joe Rogan. When I've met him at a UFC fight recently, is very nice to me. Just ships that went bump. I know he's the biggest player in the business, in the podcast business, and the video podcast business. He just made $100 million. If he had stayed in California, that's another 13.3 he would have had to flush down the toilet, because they just piss it away out here anyway. They want to raise that up to 16.5, I think. You're talking about a guy who can't even say, listen, I'd like to keep my money, because that paints you now as a potentate who has to be brought down or tipped over. So he has to use the thing, I don't want anything longer than a 2.5-hour flight in my life. And then if they lean on him about that and say that's not enough, you say, because I want to leave a better green footprint. You got to cover yourself in these odd ways. The fact is, California's turned into a place where, you on every 100 million, let's use Joe Rogan, you're going to have to kick them another 15. 15 million is a lot of money. Anybody who says, how much do you need the extra 15 million? Well, 1 million less than 16 and 1 million more than 14. It's $15 million. And Ben's printing money. And God knows, every time I see him in the yarmulke, and thank God that he's one of the few guys who's not tilting the yarmulke to jaunty angle, which like using orthodoxy to get laid or something. At least Ben has laid on there, old school. But Ben's probably up. He's got to be worth 100 million or approaching it. These are
Sure.
big considerations, and you're giving it to goofballs out of here. You're giving it to people who want to take some of your tax money and put an app together to show you where human shit is in one of the most beautiful American cities. That's how crazy it's got. It's absolutely crazy. I believe me, everybody I know out here, including the guy you're looking at on the screen, is thinking about how to get out of here. This is on a downhill run, man. If Horace Greeley were alive today, he would meet you in an orange Dayglow crossing guard belt at the borders where the Donner Party munched each other and say, "No, I made a mistake with the Go West young man." Head back, head into the
Yeah.
middle, because I think everybody should get out to Dallas in some regard. I think there's a big conflagration coming down in this country. I hope, as I said, it turns into a breakup party. As opposed to what it could turn out. And I think everybody knows in their head what it could turn out to be. And I think all the people in Dallas or in Texas, especially San Antonio, if it does break out, they're just going to go down and get all the Santa Ana reenactors and say, guys, we're going to move over here. We're going to point in. We're going to move off that far balustrade, bring it over here. We're going to point in towards Cali because they're coming in droves.
Well, our friend Corby, who calls in and leaves a lot of voicemails on the podcast, he chimes in, please move yourselves to Branson so that I can comment too much in person. And it seems, who knew that Yakov Smirnoff was way ahead of the curve when he got that theater out there in Branson?
Well, Yakov was always a closer, man. Listen, you want to turn into a closer? Live in a communist shithole for a while. Say, honey, it's Wednesday. I'm going to go queue up for 3 hours to get some toilet paper. All this shit about socialism goes out the window at that point. Yakov knew. He got all Glengarry with it, and he was a nice guy. Coffee is for closers.
There was a comment in the chat before from Jason Blair, wanted to know, we've had Al Michaels on the podcast, used to have him on the radio show. You call him Albino. Is there anything to him calling you Dendu, or is it just kind of a little nickname that happened over time?
Well, I always go to nicknames pretty quickly after I see that somebody's fine with it, because I like to tell them I'm fond of them. If I don't give you a nickname, you're just we're probably not simpatico, and that's probably the way you want it and the way I want it. I am not exactly the most gregarious person in the world. But if I give you a nickname, it's because I'm fond of you, and I want to express that. I started calling Al Albinus Humongous at the beginning, because he stood astride network football broadcasting like a latter-day Colossus of Rhodes, and I used to always do that thing where I'd hit my chest and go, "Oh, hail Venus Humongous!" And then on the air, I started calling him Venus. I get a call from the league in front of, "Are you calling Al Penis on the air?" Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I've decided to get on Monday Night Football in some freakish confluence of events and start referring to the lead announcer as Penis on the air. That's why I've been sent here from my planet. I said, no, I'm calling him Albinus. And they said, well, it sounds like you're calling him Penis. And I said, I'll call him Albino. And then he started, I guess, the O at the end. He wanted to come back because at that point we were just howling. I can't tell you how hard we'd laugh during the commercial breaks. And I've told you that story about the Viking game where on the air I say, I think it was Chris Carter hurts his ankle. I go, I haven't seen that much fabric used. They're wrapping him in a gauze bandage on camera. I haven't seen that much fabric used since the environmental artist Christo wrapped the Pont Neuf Bridge in Paris. And I remember Al hit his sneeze button, which cuts his voice out to the home viewer. He looks at me in the booth. This is my favorite moment in my 2 years there. And he goes, hey, what the fuck are you talking about? And I hear Olmeyer down in the truck. He fancies himself an art aficionado, our producer. And he's like, no, Al Christo, environmental artist. Solid reference. Okay, boys, 3rd and 6. Let's go get it. And I'm thinking, oh, my God, I wish they'd hear this part of it. So he started calling me Dendu. I just talked to Al 2 days ago. He said something in the booth that made me laugh. And I'll actually text him during games. And if it goes to halftime, I could see him eating his piece of pizza, and he'll get it. And he'll write back. during halftime. But he'll say, "Den do I learned from you." That's what he said the other night. I said, "Al, you just made me laugh out loud with that." He said, "Den do I learned from you." So I don't know. He's albino and I'm Den do now.
I always thought it was interesting that Monday Night Football. I remember when it was announced, like I enjoyed obviously SNL and the HBO show, and I'm like, okay, that's any comedian that they would think like, okay, we're going to add a comedian to Monday Night Football. And I've heard you talk about it in the way of like, why wouldn't you take a chance on that? And I think I lost Dennis for a second there. He might need to reconnect. But
take it. We can pick it back up in a second, or should we?
Yeah,
I'll call you right back.
Yeah, call me right back. Yeah, that's fine. So that's all he's got to take, but come back. We'll see him in a minute. We will continue talking until he comes back, though. Farhad Muhammad, and I'm sorry that I mispronounced your name. He saw that Christo passed recently. The main thing I remember was it's a solid reference. And I think that Dennis will always appreciate hearing from our friend Farhad Muhammad, but I think he might be trying to make a phone call at the moment. So we'll see if we get him back at some point. And yeah, Jason Blair pointing out solo Bladtcast. This is how it goes sometimes. Look, this is so far from the craziest thing that I've ever done in all this time of podcasting. And I appreciate the familiar names and faces that I see in here that are Bladtcast friends. Jacob Downey, I saw this comment. Will the Eagle Dooku again before Christmas? Jacob, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was so distracting to try and figure out what you were meaning. Corby wanted to know, do you have a nickname for me, Dennis? I will just assume you do, but you don't want to cheapen it by using it on the air. It was interesting what he was saying about that, about the nickname, is that everybody had a nickname on the radio show, and except me. I think he tried to give me a nickname once, and it just didn't stick. So, obviously David Weiss became Salmon because he looked like Salman Rushdie, and I never took it personally that I was just Christian. Hello, how are you?
Sorry, it was a call, and I told them I'd have to call them back, so I've now set my phone on not ring. I'm sorry that happened, but you know what a Luddite I am, but I didn't want to leave that person hanging, but I just said I'm doing Christian's podcast, and the person who, by the way, lives in Asia Minor said, is his 400th, right? I said, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, you could have conferenced them in, but that's all right. This is our special time. What I was going to say before was Monday Night Football. Obviously, I can't imagine anywhere prior to that in your career, you were like, I hope that I get to do the FL at some point, but I can't imagine not taking a chance on that. And you always speak like you had so much fun because, I mean, even watching at home, it looked like you, Albino, and Fouts were just having a great time, watching football and talking about it.
Yeah, I love those two guys. My error up front, and I look back, and I'm not one of these people who walks away. God knows half the country hated my guts. Half the country liked it, but even the half who liked it thought it was quirky and weird, and it would probably take a while to get used to it. All I know is this. I saw that they needed an announcer. I must have been feeling my oats at that point, Chris. I think I'd just come off HBO and I hit the ball pretty hard there. I thought, I'll try that. So I call Gervitz, my manager, and say, hey, call Ohlmeyer, I think is the guy. And he knows Ohlmeyer from NBC. I think he headed up NBC for us. Yeah, I'll give him a call. He said, tell him I'd like to audition. So I think Ohlmeyer does it on a lark. But he sets up a game out in North Hollywood on a screen. We go into a big studio, and they've stripped it of its original broadcast. I meet Al, who I don't even know. We go into what passes for a recording booth, and we look up at a big, almost like an IMAX screen, a place where you do post, you know what I mean? Where you go in and loop your lines, that sort of
Sure,
feel.
yeah.
So we're there, and it's just Al and I, and Olmey's in the booth, and I'm going to play like a half of a game. I think it was the Tennessee game where they had the amazing play at the end with Frank Wycheck, I believe was his name, and scored a miraculous touchdown at the end of the game. But Al handled that part. He was just screaming. But the part, I do remember we were laughing so hard in this audition because I couldn't have went in as if it was any more of a lark. And I wasn't going to go in and be professorial. I don't know football that well, but I know it as well as any guy in his undies on the couch does, and have probably a better memory for old stats than that. I went in, and I do remember there was a play that was a flea flicker, and the team ran the flea flicker from their opponent's 35-yard line. And the laughs are good, but at this point, Al says to me, "What do you make of the flea flicker there, Dennis?" And I go, "Well, I don't know if it makes sense there, because even if they bite, the DB can catch up because there's not much yardage there. They're trying it from 35. I mean, all he has to do is run back 20 yards and he's in the end zone. I mean, you can really get beat on a flea flick. I might try if it was reversed, if they were on their own 35 and had 65 yards of field in front of them. But it seems like the odds of the game board's down there a little. Makes it a little tighter to pull that off." And I could tell Omar in my ear goes, "Whoa." And he at least thought I was thinking. So we continue to laugh, and then I'm splitting, and I couldn't have been. I'm not acting cool, but I just said, "Omi, I know what a goat fuck this could be for you. But thanks for letting me. I had a blast." And Al and I hugged, and I said, "Albino, I got a feeling we'll be friends for a long time because we laughed so hard." He gave me a big hug. And the next day, I could tell that Omar's on the other end of the phone. He calls me and he's trying to talk himself into it. He's like, yeah, this could work. But it's almost like he's doing a Tommy Flanagan with me. And I go, "Only I'm fine either way. I tell you, it's such a roll of the dice." And I said, "I know I'm going to be in the crosshairs." I said, "If you want to do it, that's fine, brother. Go ahead. If you don't want to do it, I'm good. I thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, I think it would be fun. And let's go from there." He calls me back. He says, "Hey, come down here, sleep overnight. I'm going to introduce you tomorrow." He's got a guest room. I go down, they introduce me. I get a call from Sports Illustrated immediately, and they go, "We want to put you on the cover." And can Dennis Miller say Monday Night Football? I say to the guy, and I always feel good about this because I know my heart and my head wasn't up my ass. It was in the right place. I said, "Oh, man, I don't want to be on the cover." It was the end of the summer. I was going up to Marty Short's place in Canada on the lake. And I was kind of, after you get it, you're always flummoxed a little. You go, "Oh, I can't believe that's weird. My life just changed." Because all of a sudden you realize how big football is. You're getting calls from everybody on the planet. Excuse me. I'm calling a Chipotle bowl. Little spilkers. I go, "You don't want to put me on the cover, man. I look like an idiot if I'm on the cover of that magazine." I said, "How's about I do a game and we see if this is a nuclear explosion or not?" And I said, "It's the cover of Sports Illustrated." I go, "I appreciate it. I don't want. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do the interview. I don't want to do the picture. God go with you. And if down the road I'm any good at it, we'll talk." They put me on the next week anyway, and I'm not in the article. I think they've used some old quotes in my mind about liking football, or maybe even the quote about "I don't want to do." I can't remember exactly what's in, but there I am on the cover. They took an old picture. I didn't pose for it and just put me in maybe cufflinks or something, the Monday Night Football stuff. So now I'm thinking, well, at least my karma's clear. I didn't agree to do that. I'm up in Canada. Yeah. I'm with Marty in a newsstand. We're buying butter tarts, and I see my picture on Sports Illustrated. I go, "This is weird." So I come back and do it, and then you realize how immense a venue that is. And really, I think when I was young, I went to one Pittsburgh Steeler game maybe as a youth, but I don't even. I mean, a youth where you don't quite remember if it's a solid memory or an apocryphal memory at Pitt Stadium. The only reason I think it might be a true memory is I think that I remember against the Cardinals, and Jim Bakken kicked 7 field goals, which I think was a record for many years. So I think as a kid I might have, but I'd never been to a football game as an adult, except Tony Dorsett gaining 303 yards against Notre Dame, but that was a college game. But Steeler games were sold out for years in advance. So that's where I lived for much of my life. And I didn't even go to the games. So all of a sudden, I'm in Monday Night Football in that booth, and you hear da 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 da, and Tag Leabo's behind me. He's got his hand on my shoulder. "Go get him, kid." I'm looking at Al. I'm thinking, Christ, this is usually where I get my fiddle faddle can out and start eating. I'm in my undies watching this. I'm in the fucking booth. And I go, "I wonder if I should tell anybody I haven't been to a football game since I was like 4, maybe." I thought, no, don't tell anybody that. That's not going to end well. So I begin to realize how immense it is. And here's the only thing I look back on, and I'm not too squeamish about it because you don't know where you're on an unexplored path. And I like my 2 years there. And I really don't think about it enough I don't have the Brian Dunkelman, American Idol pushed out of Harbor. And I was left behind. I don't have any of that. I just tried it for a couple of years and had a blast. Made a couple of age-old friends. I would have fired me too the moment Madden said he wanted it. Indeed,
Sure.
Fouts and I were picked up for third year. I got paid for it, but I remember saying to the guy who whacked me, I said, "Well, you got to listen. If I'm ever in Hollywood on any given night and I want to do jokes and I go into the Improv and John Madden's on stage, they better haul his fat ass off too." So that's the way the world works. So I take the bull. I'm like G. Gordon Liddy. Just what corner do you want me on? I'm pretty cool about it, but I did up front have a moment where I got an anxiety attack as I went to do one of my first games and thought you should prepare some jokes because that's what comedians do. I started putting it together like a Tonight Show. In retrospect, I would shoehorn those jokes in periodically. And listen, you got to go in, Christian. We did radio for years together, and you do 3 hours a day. And I remember David Brenner told me once, he said, I tried it for a couple of months. I was out of material. I thought, oh, I see. For better or for worse, you got to go in and be loose and roll with it. And I don't think I was at the beginning of it. I don't think I was loose at all. I had people who liked it, but listen, I'm doing pretty arcane references there about Christo and the bloodlines between two certain teams being more overlap than the Plantagenets, and I don't know. Looking back, I probably wasn't long for that job, but I had fun.
A couple more things I wanted to ask you about before I let you get back to your afternoon. One is I know that you got to know James Lipton a little bit.
Up. What is all this scratching, man? Is that you again with the? Oh, there it went away. It must have been your mic or something.
Yeah, it probably was the air conditioning coming on. The James Lipton moment that I wanted to ask you is about your journey into film. Tell us about Wes, which is your character from Madhouse, which is the first time you did some acting. And I did have to look up the character name, I have to admit.
I saw it the other night, Christian. I saw the beginning of it. And I said to my wife, I couldn't even make it to my part because I was wincing so badly, just thinking about myself. Because I remember it had these opening credits that were neon and like those creatures outside of car lots during the Toyota-thon. They were all dancing, "It's a madhouse. It's a madhouse." And I remember me just walking off the great John Larroquette's shoulder going, but you're saying, and as it got to it, I don't usually get uptight about anything I do in showbiz because it's all a bit of a caprice, but I can't watch this. I'll be so embarrassed. I know I'll have a bad mullet, and I know I'll be acting overeager. I can watch things like Disclosure. I've only had 6 or 7 films. I can watch a few of them because I remember thinking, okay, I at least mastered not being a sweat act in a film at that point. But I remember Madhouse coming out of the box just until I had that great note from Michael Douglas. I didn't really know what to do. We were doing Disclosure. I'd never met Mikey. Next thing I know, I'm in his trailer. We're watching hoops, NBA playoff hoops. And he's got this great major domo, beautiful guy, older cat. I get a martini. Mike's got his drink. Sudsy Sutherland comes to Donald Sutherland from his trailer because it's in between periods in a hockey game. I'm thinking, now this is what stardom feels like. I'm sitting in the trailer with Pinkley from the Dirty Dozen and Gecko, and we're getting drunk before, not dry, I don't want to say, we're loosening up, having a libation before we do our next scene, watching hoops in an air-conditioned trailer that was just on, but it made Lucy and Ricky's in the long trailer look like a photo hut or something. So we're sitting there, and I say to Michael, I go, listen, what am I supposed to do here? Well, I don't know anything about acting. Is there something I got to do? And he looked at me and said, listen, we're best friends in this, office friends, right? I go, yeah. He said, what do friends do in the office? I go, well, I try to make each other laugh behind the powers that be's back. He said, great, do that. And just hit the last few words of the line as written so I know it's my turn, and we'll go from there. It was just such a great note. And ever since then, I got a little cooler with acting. But at the beginning, you're just thinking, okay, I guess I have to be something different. So I'd come on, like I said, lyric, you kid got me crazy. Well, how long's the escrow?
John, you don't understand. This is a madhouse, an actual madhouse.
Yeah, it was like that.
Yeah, look, and I've mentioned this to you before, as someone who spent money to see Bordello of Blood in the theater, I think that the reason it works on any level is because you just went in and were like, okay, I'm going to be Dennis Miller if I happened to be a private detective who hunted vampires,
I wrote most of that part because I just remember saying to the guy, I think what happened is a minor Baldwin fell out at the last minute. Maybe Zeppo. And I think Sly and Angie are together at that point. They're watching me, and I have a killer Letterman or Tonight Show. And I think they're laughing, and Angie's in the film, and they know that. And Joel Pollack, and Sly are besties. And I think she's thinking, well, whoever it was fell out, Zeppo Baldwin. Who should we get? And Sly says, this kid's funny. So I think Sly calls Joel. And they call and offer me the part. And I'm hitting the ball hard right then on Dennis Miller on HBO. I don't want to do the part, but I keep bidding it up. And not that I don't do it, I'm embarrassed. It sounded fun. It's just I was working and I said, oh, God, this is good. I'm not one of those people like Michael J. Fox that can leave Family Ties, sleep for an hour and a half on the car on the way to Spawn Ranch, and then, do Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. And then head back the next day to do a table read for the next step. I just don't have that in me. I don't have that. I don't burn to do that. So I said to them, listen, how long is the shoot? I think I had 30 shooting days, and that was going to take 3 of my HBO shows. I said, if you get me a private plane at Santa Monica Airport, that's where I was closest from CBS Television City. I'll go there after Friday night's live show and get in the plane, and I'll shoot Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I got to be back by Wednesday. So they were able to do it. But halfway through, I said to the guy, not halfway through my first day, I should say, I said, listen, man, why don't I just roll the dice? Can I just take these lines and Dennis Millicerize them? And I remember I had a thing with Chris Sarandon, who was a super cool cop. And I remember saying to him, I was trying to elicit whether or not there was something weird going on with his megachurch and this whorehouse and all that. And I was pitching a conspiracy theory to him. And I do remember looking at him and go, listen, I don't want this to sound too Duchovnian. Now, right away, I sort of ripped the script. I had taken a real world reference and kind of a funny one. It's out, the truth is out there, and said Duchovnian. And I could see Sarandon laughed a little, and the director laughed a little after. And he said, just run with that instinct. So I kind of extemporaneized, if that's the way you say that, the rest of my part. But at the end of it, I knew I didn't want to be an actor. But for better or for worse, you get spoiled by stand-up, and it's so dangerous, and it can go askew in a second. And I dug that juice, man. I'm pretty fearful in most aspects of my life, but my one Walter Mitty thing was I feel like the old Brenner bot in Westworld when I'm on that stage doing stand-up. And I like that it can go horribly wrong. I don't need a 7th take. The adrenaline I get from knowing I'd go down in flames keeps me on the beam. I dug that action, and after doing that film, I thought, man, you shouldn't do these because you're coming in too many days either exhausted or cranky or saying, can we rap? And these people, this is their stand-up, and you're being an asshole, not being deferential to their stand-up. So I think that was the last big part I did. I did a couple other things because I admired David E. Kelly, and I had a chance to do something on a TV show with that Chi McBride guy, and he was super great. Christ, you talk about what a good actor is. Just sitting in the scene with him, I thought, you know how they always talk about that stuff on Lipton Show or TCM, and you say, oh, come on, this sounds like such rabba jabba. But if the guy is inhabiting it to you and opening up to you and looking you right in the eye and immersing you in the moment, I can't tell you, that guy was beautiful, man, Chi McBride. I had a long scene with him in his classroom where I had to be overly earnest, and the sardonic part of me is thinking, "Oh God, I don't even know if I'll be good earnest." And he led me into Ernest through just his connection with him. It's pretty trippy. And I'm not a serial about showbiz, Christians, but I'm telling you, it was pretty trippy.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you can see somebody that is, an actor with a capital A. I mean, of course, I always shoot things through the sci-fi prism, but there's this awful Star Wars Christmas special, and it's just so bad from 1978. But you see Harrison Ford in it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Han Solo right there. Everybody else is terrible, but he's like, no, I know this is a piece of shit, but he's still committed to it, and it definitely you definitely notice it just when somebody is like, well, I'm gonna do this the same way as if it was actually really well written, I suppose.
I remember I took my kid to Comic-Con once, and I get off at this private terminal. I rented a plane and flew us down. We were splitting. The new Star Wars was just about to rev back up. It's the biggest thing in the history. For me, my generation, the Beatles, it's the Beatles of the next generation. It's the biggest thing in the world, and they've announced it's coming back. You remember when this happens, and that Harrison's going to be in one of them. I don't know it like you do, the discography, but it's the rebirth of it. Um, I get to the FBO, the private terminal, and my kid goes into the bathroom. I'm standing there in the hall. Harrison comes in from his plane. He's coming into Comic-Con. And I go, Harrison. He goes, Dennis. I go, I just came from over there, brother. Get ready. It's like the Burning Man of Star Trek or Star Wars. And he goes, you're kidding. I go, what are you kidding? I said, you're fucking Han Solo. I said, every second kid over there is a Wookiee or in a pair of boots with a laser sword. For Christ's sake, brother, I said, you cannot even imagine what you're about to walk into. And it was just so funny that the guys who were actually in it, he's Han Solo. He goes, how is it? And I tell him, I goes, you're kidding.
Well, I want to get two more listener viewer questions in before I let you go. Cami Egan wants to know if you can think of one influence on you when you first started doing stand up, even whether it was somebody famous or somebody that was local who kind of gave you a break. Who stands out when you think back to starting stand up? If there was an inspiration or just somebody who gave you a helping hand.
Well, two guys. Leno was such a pragmatist, and he kept me grounded. And he said. I said, I moved to LA, found me my first apartment. I said, Jay, I'm scared shitless. He said, I said, it just looks like so many people are trying this. And he said, yeah, I know. Jay's so funny. He said, I know the road looks crowded now, but I'm telling you, just stay in the center of the road because a lot of people crash out on the berm. A lot of blow, a lot of women problems, a lot of ego. He's, I guarantee you, it's like the backstage in a horse race. Just keep it a gallop. He said, it'll open up, which is great. And then one night before Jay ever brought me to LA or helped me to LA, when I was thinking of doing it, I was in New York and I went to Catch, and Belzer at Catch in the late 70s was about as perfect. He was like Robert Osborne was on TCM, as somebody perfectly fit the milieu. Belzer inhabited the milieu. It was just so powerful to watch. I often thought it must be like seeing Nichols and May at the Carlisle or something where they're just pounding it. And Belzer ruled with a dark presence and a strong whip hand, as they say in the horse racing trade. And I remember getting it halfway through where I thought he was killing, and he was not being nice to them. Up to that point, I always thought of it like Carlin on the Sullivan Show. Carlin was always on there dressed up in a band suit, like, hey, you guys. And then, he found pot, and he comes out the next day, and he looks like, Peter Coyote and a dashiki. He's all laid out. And all of a sudden, Carlin's born. And when I watched Belzer, I had been the sucky kiss-ass comic my whole career up to that point, which was minimal. I got this message pretty early on, but it went off like a thunderbolt in my head where I thought, oh, they don't want you to be an ass kisser. They want you to be good at it. And then if you can mix in a little indifference, it's intoxicating. You're the one stepping up to a low stage and seeking lighting and amplification. Flourish the cape, brother. Work close to the horn. Don't be a jerk off. So Belzer was important.
I worked on Law and Order SVU, which was the one that Belzer was on, and it didn't really change. So they would do the cast read throughs, and there's this actor Chris Maloney from that show who is a very good actor, but he would have questions about every single one of his lines, and Belzer, you could see, just wanted to get to his trailer and have lunch, and it was just like every time he said something, it was just this long pause, and Belzer's like, can I read my line now? Just sort of very like, what do you think you're doing here? This is Law and Order SVU. It's not Shakespeare in the Park. Can we just move on now?
Belzer was exhibiting what I was feeling about movies right there. You get the pace of stand up mainlined into you, the danger and all that, and then like Tom Sizemore said in Heat, for me the action is the juice. And when you're de-juiced and you're sitting around a table reading, somebody's on their third Triscuit and Brie asking their character paraglided when he's a teenager, you want to go, the fuck are you talking about?
And the final question, because the reason I like doing live stuff like this is you get stuff like this. Harv P. Karch wants to know, do you believe in aliens?
Yeah, I do. I'm not sure I believe in illegal aliens, but aliens, sure.
I believe in the 1986 James Cameron aliens. I absolutely believe that. And Corby says he loves watching us together. Well, Dennis, I appreciate you taking the time to help me commemorate 400 Bladtcasts. It always means a lot when you're able to take some time out and join Bladtcast Nation, as they're known.
Christian, I love you. I just want you to know that you're important to me. I know we goof around a lot. You know how fond I am of you, how you've always been there for me. I've only sat with a couple other cats who are as adroit or roll with it or ad lib or think in the moment, who never deny. Sitting with you is the closest thing I've ever had to sitting with somebody who I know is going to make me laugh uproariously, stay cool, and be humble, since Shanley, when he used to do the Tonight Show, and I'd go out and sit in that room with Shanley. That's the last time I felt I was wingman for somebody as good as you are. So I love you.
Well, I love you too, and I will say that career-wise, it's been great knowing you. But I met my wife on your CNBC show. So without you, who knows where my life would be? She worked on the show, and that's 16 years ago. So without you, I might not even ever have met my wife. So thank you for that.
Christ, you'd be Biden's VP if you hadn't met me. I got to rock.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. That is Dennis Miller. I always appreciate him taking the time here. And I know that some of you are still in the live chat and you had questions for Dennis. If you want to chat a little bit more, you can ask me about that show. You can ask me about the Dennis Miller option, anything that you'd like to talk about. We appreciate everybody who's there. I realize that the big draw has gone. Elvis has left the building, but we've been doing the Bladtcast for, believe it or not, 7 years now. So that is how, 7+. That's how we ended up with 400 episodes. And it's crazy to think about it. It really just started as a thing that we would do after the radio show. And, on Sirius XM, Howard Stern has his own channel. And there would be these shows where people would talk about the radio show. And I'm like, I can do that. I don't know if I can host a radio show. I can talk about it. So I thought that maybe people would want to hear what it's like to make the show. And then literally we did one show, it was a half hour. And I think after that, we very rarely talked about the radio show because it was fun. Raging Rhino has a question. Give us a secret origin of Chimp Doctor. I am under strict orders that Chimp Doctor can never appear on camera. So you might need to leave a voicemail for the Dennis Miller option to get that on there. But, look, we got this comment right here from J. Mark D. Hoo-hoo. And that basically I'm doing sort of like if Christopher Walken did a line read for a Chimp Doctor. Hoo-hoo. That was terrible. Because the only thing I can do as Christopher Walken is basically take other people's impression. Kevin Pollak has a great one. And all I can really do, and so many people do the Christopher Walken impression. And who is basically all I can do there as that. And basically an occasional, hey, little man. His monologue in Pulp Fiction is some of my favorite acting that I've ever seen. When he's talking to the little boy who ends up being Bruce Willis's character, and he tells this whole story. He kept it in his ass, and I don't know. I mean, look, Christopher Walken is one of the greats, and yeah, and Jason Blair makes the point. Chimp Doctor cannot be on the screen. This is the way. Jason Blair, I know you'll have to head out in a few minutes because you have to pick up the kids at school. And for those that don't know Jason that well, he has triplets. So the idea that his kids are out of the house is definitely something that I'm sure is very comforting to him. I only have 2 kids. And when they started going back to school in the middle of August, the fact that you hear that, that's silence in my house. This is not something that we had from March through mid-August. It's not what we had at all. But Christopher Walken, please get him on your show. Oh my God, would I love to have Christopher Walken on with Dennis. I think he only hosted SNL one time that Dennis was there. But what a weird eclectic guy, because if you've ever seen any of the Christopher Walken episodes of SNL, and I don't think he's done it in a while, but he did he's in the cowbell sketch, the Blue Oyster Cult. I gotta have more cowbell. I got a fever, and the only solution is more cow. Yeah, exactly. Sandra points it out. Yeah, Sandra. And Sandra, it's great to see you. I can't say that I know you from the Bladtcast or listening to the Dennis Miller option, so it's always nice to see new names in there. Jason kind of gives us a little bit of the follow-up that the kindergarten is a block away. Life is so easy now. Humble Painter, so good to see our friend Humble Painter. Wants to know when you're going to create Bladtcast merchandise like a Christian bobblehead. Look, it's the same reason. And Corby wants to know if he can get a direct link to Chimp Doctor. Yes, you can call 866-509-7268. You can schedule a virtual visit. And Dennis isn't hearing this, Corby, so you should save this, that you have a sebaceous cyst that is causing irritation to your epidermis. You should save that for a voicemail. I won't tell Dennis that we already used it on Bladtcast 400 because he's out now, So let's see what Cam Egan says. I would have loved to have seen Dennis taking and getting shots from Don Rickles and watching it crack up. I mean, Don Rickles was on Dennis's HBO show, and I'm just watching it as a fan at home. This is when I was in college, and Rickles was fucking amazing. And he sits down, and Dennis says, "Don, how's it going?" And he's like, "Well, I'm on this piece of shit, aren't I?" And so right there, from that moment, you're like, "Oh yeah, Rickles is still Rickles." I took my wife to see Rickles in Vegas, and I was so glad that I got to see him. And it's what you expect, but he also likes to sing and dance, and so it was great to see. There's a few performers that I wish I'd seen. Prince is way up on that list, but I'm so glad that I got to see Don Rickles. And Jason does make a point. Chimp Doctor does not charge a copay. All medical questions should go to 866-509-RANT. See, that's the thing. So in any case, I thought that it was definitely fun of Dennis to call in, and he thought it was going to be a phoner, but like a trooper, he's like, great, let me just go sit in the car. And hey, Jeffrey Allen Carol Borisco. Boy, I'm pronouncing that wrong, but I see your name all the time on Facebook. Appreciated the conversation. Thanks for getting him to be on the show. Yeah, I try not to ask him too much, in all honesty. It had literally been 4 years since the last time I had him on. I thought he'd think it was funny if I had him on episode 201. And I think he thought it was less funny than I did. So I was like, all right, well, then when 400 rolls around. Humble Painter asks a great question. Do you have a Dennis doll, Christian? Yes, I do. Remind me. Send me a message, Humble Painter. I will post a photo of it. It's down in the back of the garage. Somebody mailed it to me that was a fan of the radio show. And I think I have the R-rated version that swears. I wish that you had sent that question beforehand, because then I would have remembered to go get it, and I would have shown it to Dennis, and that would have made him feel very uncomfortable. But that's all right. It's always fun. And I think that Jason Blair wants to talk about Felix's drawings on the wall. How do you decide which ones make the cut? The turkey is from like 3 Thanksgivings ago. So let's just say the output is not Picasso's blue period. That's a really mean thing to say about my son, but I hope that you appreciate it. Cam Egan, questions from, I love this. How long did you work on Law & Order SVU? The joke answer, much too long. But I worked on the production side in New Jersey for 2 years, and then I worked in the writer's office for a year, non-consecutively. The writer's office based here in Los Angeles. So a lot of great people on that show, and being around Belzer. I do have a photo that I took at my last rap party with Ice-T, because when else was I going to get a picture with Ice-T? It was a fun show to work on in a lot of ways. It's not my kind of TV. I haven't watched it other than when I worked there. But I think that they certainly did a good job tackling issues that, especially if you think about the fact that it was 1999, issues that weren't on TV very much. I think they did a great job, just sort of addressing some of those things. And John Webster says, have Lindsay on. I'll let you know, John Webster, that Lindsay has actually been on the Bladtcast a couple of times, but I was thinking that we're way past time. The last time she was on was the Bladtcast Christmas party, and there were a couple of cocktails that night. So I think that she was very nervous about how she sounded on that. But honestly, I've only seen her like 3 times since March, because we don't do the show together anymore. We usually do it remotely on our computers, the way I'm doing it now. Jacob Downey finally wanted to explain that joke that just got in my head and I didn't understand. He was asking if the government eagle will relieve its stimulus into our bank accounts again before the end of the year. Dude, I had no idea what you were saying. There were some good other jokes in there that I didn't get to see. And then J. Mark has a good joke. Is Rickles still the bench coach for the Yankees? Yeah, Don Zimmer looked exactly like Don Rickles. Farad Muhammad, you didn't see Rickles. He had to play Chicago at least once a year. What are you doing, Farad? That's all right. I mean, look, if you think about the people that you have seen, you take it that way. And you've seen Dennis Miller film multiple comedy specials. Jacob Lee Downey, tell people where to find your channel and your show. What do you get when you add salt to your tea? Salt tea. And I love that Sandra's still here. Got to listen to different views like Jesse Jackson, Hillary Clinton, Trump. Most whoever just lied. I'm actually not sure what that was. You mean Lindsay laughed more than usual? Yeah, Lindsay's fantastic. It's a great dynamic to have a voice like that. If you were a fan of the old radio show, we loved when we would have Sarah Ricard, Sarah DMZ would be in studio. She usually worked from home at a time where people didn't really work from home. This is a time way back in like 2011, 2012. But having another laugh in the studio, having a female laugh in the studio really just adds something else to it. And it's very funny because there's a lot of times where Lindsay adds the perspective of a young woman in her 30s, which is, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And, it's nice because she does a great job on always making me feel old. I thought that we're getting J. Mark saying, I regret not going to see Farad, but Farad will be everywhere. Just you wait. And Farad, when there's time for stand-up to happen again, I think you should give it another go. But I don't know. I mean, who here that's still in the chat, and I think a lot of you are, and I really appreciate it, who amongst you would enjoy watching a comedy show in these ways? One, on Zoom, where it's not just like one-on-one with a comedian, where it's an actual like Zoom show. 2, at a drive-in, that's happened, or just a stage outdoors. I know friends in New York who have done shows that are just outdoors, and honestly, you can actually get more people out there. But I've gone to the drive-in to the movies, as I've talked a lot about. I saw Tenet, New Mutants, always itching to go to the drive-in. I grew up going to the drive-in, but I don't know about seeing a comedy show at the drive-in, from the car. If it's like there's tables outside, I can see that, but I don't know. And I feel like for comics, like doing comedy into Zoom is it just has to be awful. Great question from Andy Barrigan. My memory is terrible. When did the radio show go away? My memory is even worse. I don't remember. No, 2015. We did the radio show from 2007 to 2015, Dennis and I. And previous to that, I worked with him in 2004, 2005 on the CNBC show. And each of those times, I just kind of figured that I probably wouldn't get a chance to work with him again. But even when we didn't work together, we would keep in touch. Just, I'll send him jokes that are very inappropriate that I can't share with anyone else that I know would make him laugh. And I've been very lucky to get to work with him for a few times. And I didn't want to make him super uncomfortable. But when I was a kid, I was in middle school, and you're trying to figure out what do you want to do when you grow up. And I would watch SNL, and I'm like, oh, I want to be that guy. I want to do the news on Saturday Night Live. So basically, I grew up thinking I want to be Dennis Miller. But this is what I tell people on the rare occasion that they allow me to speak to a room of college students, even on Zoom. I will say, like, you should always manage what your expectations are for your career, because I clearly was never going to grow up to being Dennis Miller, but I grew up writing jokes and co-hosting various shows with him. We're getting some feedback on this. I think Kemi Egan, which I really appreciate how supportive you are of all the shows that I do here on the Bladtcast YouTube channel. We had a fun Marvel movie talk today. I think via Zoom or drive-in would be great. Yeah, I could see that. And Farad would rather do the outdoor drive-in shows. Zoom puts the audience about 3 to 4 seconds in the past. That's a great point. So you get a joke and you're like, oh, that one died. And then you move on to the next joke, and then you hear, but like in a very staticky kind of more like something like that. But Farad, I know you went to actual comedy show in Vegas. So you've been to see comedy more recent than a lot of us have. Jacob says that they should do the Dennis Miller Option podcast while drinking. Dennis isn't a big drinker. I'm not saying he doesn't drink. I clicked off my microphone instead of Jacob's comment. Clearly, I cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. I would say that Dennis, it's not that Dennis doesn't drink, but he's not like a regular drinker. So I can't imagine him thinking that would be fun. It would be fun if Lindsay and I were to maybe, connect ourselves like this, and we did some kind of group drinking game or something. I don't know. I'm just coming up with the idea now. So let's try and put our heads together and try and do an all drinking Bladtcast. But everybody in the chat will also have to be drinking too. So obviously, if you're in recovery or anything like that, I guess don't watch that show, because I don't want the guilt associated with all of that. Oh my gosh! And Marianne says, "Sorry, I'm late for the party. The party's still happening, but Dennis isn't here, and I'm sure that's really what you wanted, Raging Rhino is willing to take the risk when it comes to going to see comedy. Yeah, I kind of get that, Well, there's a lot of comments that I missed. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to have to get some of these in here. But and it's great that so many people are still here. I honestly expected, as soon as Dennis's picture clicked off, I can see the number of how many people are watching. I was like, okay, it's going to be down to like -4 in like 4 seconds. But I'm very appreciative that people are still interested in talking. We know Jason Blair had to go get his kids. Let's see. Corby says, I want a Cameo service where I pay to have Dennis come to my house and tell me jokes. I don't know that you could get Dennis come to your house and tell you jokes, but I think that, and not necessarily Dennis, but I think getting one-on-one interaction with comedians for top dollar, that's basically what Patreon is. I think that we're very close to that model, depending on how much touring of stand-up comedy there is. I think that you might see more and more options like that. I think it's time to say, screw the government. We are humans and need to see and touch each other. Sandra Larson Gonzalez. I think I agree with that in principle. I think that there are certainly exceptions. I think that, you have your elderly, you have high risk people. I have friends that have very unique conditions that are just afraid of going outside in a way that isn't as unnatural as it might seem. So I think that for the most part, people can probably be together, but I don't know. I think that it really depends on where you are. There's obviously everybody knows Dr. Fauci, but there is another doctor who I actually I'm on his text blast. His name's Dr. David Agus, and he will actually sometimes answer your questions. And so I thought I would see what he thought about going to the movie theater, which is something I wanted to transition to talking about. And surprisingly, I heard back from him. And he said it's less about being in the movie theater than it is about what the infection rate is in the area that you're in. So the act of sitting in a movie theater is a reasonably safe one. But if you're somewhere like, just hypothetically, say you're in Midtown Manhattan in mid-May, that would not have been a good time to be indoors with all of those people. But then, of course, the advice is always, if you're going to be indoors at a movie theater, you should wear your mask. And I go to eat the popcorn. So that's why I go to the drive-in, because to go to the drive-in, all I have to do is just swing by Sonic beforehand and fill up the car with all of my snacks and everything. Although here in Los Angeles, you're starting to get movie theaters that are actually doing little pop-up, pun intended, I guess. You can get just popcorn to go. And I think I'm going to do it tomorrow because it's just right down the street. And I'm like, the movie theaters aren't going to be open anytime soon. But man, do I miss movie theater popcorn, because we made popcorn to watch Toy Story with the kids. They had never seen it. And when you make the popcorn, and I'm talking like, not microwave. This is like with the popper, you put the butter on, and it was good, but man, it just doesn't even come close. And it is too bad that Jason Blair ducked away, because I know that he and his kids have gone to see a few movies since they've reopened in Austin. J Mark, I wanted to comment on the fact that you still have your DMZ bathrobe. Quality. I also have a DMZ bathrobe. And again, if I was thinking, I could have worn that for this. I will have to disagree on the quality of it, though. I wish that maybe it was a little nicer. I also have Tonight Show with Jay Leno bathrobe from the first time that Jay did the Tonight Show, and Dennis was on as a guest, and he didn't want it. And I think he didn't want his publicist to take it home. He asked me if I wanted it. So I still have that. Now, that is a very nice bathrobe, but I live in Los Angeles. My wife doesn't understand the concept of a robe. She doesn't understand why you would wear it. You know, it's like, well, you know, for after you get it out of the shower. She's like, yeah, don't you just get dressed? I'm like, yeah, but you're cold. So it's nice to sometimes have some of those differences that you run into there. And let's see. So to Sandra's comment, Humble Painter wants to know what kind of touching. So that's always fun to hear. But Sandra realized that she shouldn't have said touching. She should have said hug. Yeah, it's nice to get a hug. Look, the first time that I went into the radio show I went into the studio to do the podcast for the first time in a while. I hadn't seen Lindsay in like 5 months. And you know, we were in front of microphones, so of course we didn't have masks on at that point. Before I left, I was just like, I'm just letting you know, I'm going to come and give you a hug right now, because I hadn't seen her in so long, and it was very surreal. Like, I didn't think it was going to make me so emotional to go to work, but I actually like teared up a little bit when I saw her for the first time, because it's like, you know, you see somebody. I mean, I usually only see her 2 days a week, but I hadn't seen her in so long, and we text so much. So I get it. There's something to be said for that. And David Hines likes hearing and seeing me and Dennis together. I do too. I have a lot of fun getting the chance to talk to Dennis, and that's a crazy thing. Growing up as a fan of Dennis Miller, I mean, his Off-White album, his first comedy album, which I have on cassette, thank you very much, on cassette, is so funny. And it like, there were jokes that friends of mine and I would recite to each other and still refer to once in a while. You know, Dennis even talks about this joke that he had in there that he did on a Letterman set, that he doesn't like the train because he doesn't trust any form of transportation that the general public has access to the brakes. And he says something along the lines of, I didn't want to go off the rails because Gus thought he saw a woodchuck. And anybody who's a fan of Letterman and Fraud knows what I'm talking about. The words Gus and woodchuck are exactly the sort of thing that would make Letterman laugh. And just continuing on in this part of the conversation, J. Mark meant to say, it's time that, you know, oh, he's making a joke. She meant, I think it's time to say, see the government, we are humans and need to screw and touch each other. So that's why she amended it to hug, because see, Marianne, you came in for everything to get down in the gutter. And Cami Egan, I was pissed that I missed most of Marvel Movie Talk today because of work meetings. Well, Cami Egan and everybody else, you should all know that Marvel Movie Talk can always be found on the Bladtcast YouTube channel, Bladtcast. Corby Piet, I don't even know how to say your last name. Corby, when he tuned into the radio show that day and it was old clips, I thought it was odd. Then for the next several days, I held out hope. After that, I fell into a depression. Yeah, I had recently found out that my wife was pregnant. So imagine how depressed you were. Think about how I was when I'm like, oh, wait, I don't have a job anymore. And, look, J-Mark makes this point. I think anybody that works on Zoom remotely doesn't want to do anything there on their free time, which I can't disagree with. It's kind of like doing the old radio show. The last thing I ever wanted to listen to was other political talk. Just was not interested, so I would listen. I listened to a lot of Jim Rome at that point. I would listen to sports talk because something about I actually wasn't ready to listen to music yet. So there's some great conversations happening here, and we will wrap this up soon because I can't take up more than an hour of your time, or well, I mean a little bit. But Farad knows that his Letterman reputation precedes him, which is absolutely true. And then a comment that I think Farad would appreciate: VR cameras are $300. Someone donate so we can watch the Bladtcast in VR. Farad, I feel like a good VR camera is more than $300. You tell me if that's accurate, So yeah, J Mark says I wouldn't have. Sorry, I'm trying to bring the concept. J Mark says, Marianne says I like gutter snipes, so that's good. But J Mark, the comment I meant to click on, says I would not have written that if I knew Marianne was here. David Hines wanted to know if Dennis was sitting in his barn. Hopefully it was very far away. Dennis literally has a barn on his property. It's where his office is. And that's where he does the podcast from. And this is what everybody tuned in for, to make sure that we know that it's Corby Piet, which I think that there's a Lieutenant Piet in Empire Strikes Back, just in case you had any doubt. What a tremendous nerd that I was. And Cami Egan was talking about WandaVision. If you're a Marvel fan, that show looks like it's going to be amazing. I realize that not everybody is. But I, for one, am very excited to see that show. But let us know, what are you looking forward to talking about? And who do you want to talk to in the near future? Let us know all of these things. Little housekeeping, by the way, that this is Bladtcast 400. The audio version of this will combine this conversation with a little bit from Will and Jeff when that's posted. We're going to actually have, we're going to have audio Bladtcasts every day next week. We've got this one, 400, and 401, the video for which is actually already posted with a musician named Damon Johnson, a conversation I had yesterday, but I had to post it today because he's promoting something that's on Friday. So for those of you that are subscribed to the Bladtcast YouTube channel, you're kind of getting a lot of this stuff earlier than it goes out as podcasts. Sometimes you'll see I'll post an interview that I actually don't use for 3-4 weeks or something. So I highly recommend suggesting that all of you, I recommend suggesting that you subscribe to the Bladtcast YouTube page, and you can get shows like this and Marvel movie news that we're talking about, So anyway, let's see. Cami Egan, no more porch chats with Sal. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We will do more porch chats with Sal. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to preview the Major League Baseball postseason, which is about to begin on Tuesday or Wednesday, I forget. But we're going to have a conversation, Salman, myself, and my friend Melissa, and Jacob Downey. Thank you for letting people know where they can find the audio versions, SoundCloud / Bladtcast, Bladtcast. Raging Rhino loves Damon Johnson. Great conversation that I had with him. I talked to him for almost an hour, and he appreciated that I took so much time. You will hear that in the course of 57 minutes, Damon Johnson became a Christian Blatt fan. So that's the important thing to know. And David Hines clearly keeping track of the Bladtcast because he knows that Melissa is definitely going to talk about how many balks there were this season. Now we're starting to have the people go away. John Webster says, good show, over and out from Scranton, PA. I've never been to Scranton proper, but I had a girlfriend who had extended family from Wilkes-Barre, and I thought it was Wilkes-Barre. I still don't know how to say it, but beautiful part of Pennsylvania. And I was very distracted. Oh, no. Marianne is dancing in the Star Trek anniversary video. Trekkies raised $75,000 for this worldwide event. Well, that's great. I mean, first of all, you said Star Trek, so everything in there sounds pretty amazing. Kame Egan says, being a Chicagoan, I'm excited about the possibility of a Cubs versus Sox World Series. You're probably on the short list for that. As excited as I was in 2000 for the Subway Series, Mets and Yankees, I realized that most people weren't. That was not something that they were very excited about. You know, if we ever got an Angels-Dodgers World Series, I don't know how excited people would be. Although, let's be fair, Giants A's, the Earthquake World Series, that was a pretty good one. And the thing that I love here is that Corby says, I'm not leaving. You can end the broadcast, but you can't make me leave. That's the best part about Corby. Corby Pyatt. He's going to just continue. And J Mark says, pulling for the Mets, hate the Phillies and hope they don't get in. Marlins currently half game ahead of Philly for second in the NL East. Yeah, there's so many teams making the playoffs this year, but I've come to terms with the fact that the Mets are not going to be one of them. And that's always a little bit disappointing. But so let's see, what else are we going to get? So next week, you're going to get more episodes of the Bladtcast. You are going to get the audio version of this that'll have a little bit with Will and Jeff that I'm going to splice in at the end. You'll get episode 401 with Damon Johnson, and you'll also get the MLB playoff preview and another conversation that I had with David Ellefson from Megadeth, which is actually very cool. So there will be 5 audio episodes of the Bladtcast next week. That is how we celebrate 400. And I'll tell you right now, Larry, I got no problem sharing your allegiances. This is not my sentiment, but Larry says go Phillies because he was just trying to get it out there. And Craig Robinson, oddly enough, is Scranton where The Office was based. I'm a misinformed Brit. Wasn't Craig Robinson a character on The Office? Yeah, that's where the American version is. And the American version of The Office and the British Office, 2 very different shows. They're definitely of a similar spirit, but definitely not the same thing. Anyway, I appreciate everybody sticking around and chatting and all these questions. You know, you can continue to leave these questions just on the YouTube page after we say goodbye. And I appreciate everybody joining us to commemorate 400 of these things, which certainly seems like, 390 too many, but that's always fun. So make sure you subscribe. Bladtcast, Bladtcast, Bladtcast.com. And that's where you can always find the links to the latest in video, in audio, or just subscribe on all the fun places you can subscribe. I do appreciate everybody who tuned in, most importantly, Mr. Dennis Miller, for giving us some of his time. And I was going to say for the 400th time, but I didn't get this till the 100th. So I don't know. So I've probably hit it 400 times in the last week, but thank you to everybody. And we will see you and hear from you next time on the Bladtcast. Thanks, everybody.